Awesome. So, Thursday market breakdown. Today's actually a phenomenal day. So, obviously yesterday we were looking at a few pairs, Aussie US dollar GBP and Aussie CAD. It looks like we have quite a bit more shaping up today, especially the DXY. Now, over the evening yesterday we had something really nice happening with the DXY. So even though that we were looking at, and I'll just quickly go top down analysis for you. We had the weekly for anyone who's new. We had the 1, 2, 3. And if you don't understand this, don't worry too much. It's not, it takes a little bit of time and practice to learn these things, but you can learn them. So we have a 1, 2, 3 equal spacing, and then we have a daily sell-off, which is weekly sell-off, very visible on the daily, and then we've reached a high value area. Mass psychology, meaning that we're looking for the people to get caught out on the wrong side of the market. However, we are high time frame short. However, things can turn around because of this corrective movement. Looking on the 4-hour, we can see that price is now taking a bounce back, which is exactly what we're looking for. We had a nice little push below a gap in the market, catching people out on the wrong side, really confused, thinking, okay, the gap's going to fill, it's going to come back down. But really and truly, this is what we've been looking for. So being very patient. There was this trade in here, which I was more than happy to not get involved in, just because of the risk reward didn't really meet my criteria. However, the trade was somewhat around about here for me, and for that reason, it was basically 2 to 1. It did run to a 3 to 1 in the end, but still, regardless, it wasn't something that I was happy to take with. Now, I don't trade the DXY, and I've said this many times, but the Euro USD, which is the one that I'll come to, is basically at a very good point now. So correlating with the DXY, because they do work together. If the DXY is going up, the Euro USD is going down. So essentially what I'm looking at on the Euro USD is a good sell-off. Now we've been eyeing up this 1, 2, 3 as well. Not exactly the most cleanest, but it doesn't have to be. We basically had this double bottom low, and then we breached this high. So as that high was breached, we knew that impulsively we're looking for a push down. So when I saw this price action here, and price was up here, I was then looking at if price is going to be able to decline from there. Looking on the DXY, we've seen that how we had that gap, we're going to fill the gap because of where we were sitting, probably around about here. I was waiting for this gap to be filled. Now, this can still develop and go short. I'm not completely going to say that, we are going to come back up. This is a possibility. However, it's more probable given the higher time frame price action that we are going to have price come gravitate up to these highs here. So what I'm looking at right now in the Euro USD is the short. I did get involved on a short position. The short position was based roughly around about here. As you can see on the 15-minute chart, we did have a push down, and this is more of an advanced entry, and I wouldn't expect a lot of people to want to take something like this, but it was just more so something in line with this, and it wasn't fully developed at the time, so you couldn't really understand it. But when I saw this little push down here and the correction, I was convinced that this is going to be more than enough. So this was the trade that I was originally looking at in this area here, and then as it developed like this, I just had to wait it through. I mitigated my risk by covering the high. So despite obviously getting involved in this, my position is up here. So that's basically how I look to get involved in the position. I'm not worried about the stop loss at all because I'm covering the high, and obviously if this does gravitate higher, most probably the DXY will be dropping off. So it was one risk that I was happy to take. I did take it with, my own risk management. So, I know some people trade with quite a lot of percentage, some people trade with 1% and less. So obviously what's applicable to yourself, depending on the area, your trading plan and so forth, it's always important. So that's basically the trade. To the low, there is roughly around about 6% to this low. And then if we do drop off further, which I'm hoping that, with how things are, we might actually get a little bit more of an aggressive movement, and we might get, price kind of drop off to here. So, give it some time, let it materialize, but I will be aggressive on my management at this point in time, just because of where the DXY is placed. We are still trading below this price action. We haven't really committed anything certain yet until I get some sort of, commitment and we've really broken this. Then I'll be looking to be less aggressive, but at this point in time I will be more aggressive. So that's basically Euro USD and DXY. I also have another position open on Aussie US dollar, which I'll go through in a second. But GBP Aussie is as well in a very good area. I just had to really decide on what I was going to take, because there was Euro USD, there's quite a few pairs on board which I'll show you in a second, but filtering through them, it really has to work down to yourself. And with the aggressive push down from here, I would want to see an aggressive push back up before I even get involved here. So this trade may still be something I might be willing to take in the future, but at the moment, this low is a little bit more favorable for me. If we can break that and push back up, that's something I'm also looking for. But you know, we don't have to get there. This is more than enough. So at the moment, I'm just eyeing this up, being very patient, and I'm just going to see how this materializes. If we can get a solid push back up, then I might be more inclined to actually opt in for a GA position, depending on if AU and EU is not going too well. I get tagged out for a break even. It is what it is. So GA still needs some time. It can sell off as well, bearing that in mind. You know, GBP isn't at its strongest economically, and also on a technical standpoint, there isn't a lot of confluence to say that this is supported, because we still tapped into this high and we started selling off. You know, we tapped into it twice, so mini double top, and we sold off. So there's actually enough for this to actually push back low. So just keep that in mind as well for GA. EA, on the other hand, as I expected during the SMB, you know, we had this sort of expanding pattern here, and then we extended out here as well. Now with that extension, what we're seeing is we've tapped into this low and we've pushed. It's very much possible that two things can happen. EA can potentially create some sort of flag here, or get very messy and do something like that. Or we can trade within this flag, and essentially we could, you know, just do this and sell off. Or the very much possible, which I was looking for, is we just continue, and we just continue to strive and we keep pushing up. Those are the scenarios, more neutral on this, so hence the reason why I don't really have it on watch today. It just got a lot more messier than I wanted to get involved in. It's very corrective at this point. If we do meet with a low here and then we have a very nice reaction, I may entertain it. Probably I won't, but you know, it's probably that's the area where I would look at. GA still looks very much solid. Definitely worth having it on watch today. Aussie US dollar. This is the one that I've also took a trade on. So I'm just gonna basically show you the context of why I took this position. So essentially, we basically have more than enough. So if we look at this, I'll just clear off this bit here. If we look at this on a higher time frame, we had this override point here that we've tapped into twice now. So we've had a double top to it. We aggressively moved towards it, which is no problem. I've seen this happen 100 times, and it comes with experience, that we can aggressively move to something and we can aggressively move away. Right? It happens so many times. Now, the nice thing about it is that we did get a push up and then we got a push straight back down. So tapping into that, you know, catching people on the wrong side, making them think that we're still going bullish, and now we're going aggressively short. On the 4-hour time frame, it became a lot more clear when we did have that close. When we had this close over here, we can see that, you know, we basically just created a, I wouldn't say that this is my cleanest, but it definitely is an evening star. So looking at this to potentially just make its move down is what I'm looking for. This was more than enough ready, but because of you know, just because of other reasons, market just decided to correct, push people up, catch people out, and then go. Many times when you're on that side of the market, it messes with your head, and then you kind of just opt in and think, okay, I'm not going to take the position, this and that, and then what you do is you end up missing a very good position, and it's happened to me multiple amount of times. This was the only one negative confluence that I had, where I thought potentially this can evolve, and it still can. Bear in mind that this could still become something a little bit more complex. And if this kind of comes down, goes up, goes down a little bit, and then just goes up and creates the 1, 2, 3 to that override, that's also another trade that I'll look to opt in for. So that is something that I just want to be very mindful for being into this position, that this can also happen. So even though you can take a very good position with so much context, something else can develop. So you just have to be on your A game with this, especially with how aggressively impulsive this is. We do need this price to be a little bit more corrective in order for us to reach that third touch as well. And it's not your traditional middle section in a sense as well. So that's kind of one of the things that kind of gave me the confidence that, you know, I'm more than happy to take an entry over here, because if this doesn't play out, then I'll look for the entry over there or an entry down here somewhere. So in terms of a risk reward, I think it's pretty a no-brainer that this is a very good position. I will just double check where I got involved. I got involved around about, okay, 947. Okay, so Aussie US dollar, and yeah, it was roughly around about there and here. So that's basically the trade that I took, and then I've got that holding at a break even now. And then I actually just checked as well. I do have Aussie CAD as well open on there. So basically, that one was I was able to move that to this one to break even pretty quickly, and then now I'm on that one. So this one's still holding at a break even, a little bit higher, just about there. And yeah, it's just roughly holding at a break even now. So we'll just see how that plays out. And then GBP US dollar. I've got GBP US dollar over here, where essentially we've tapped into this high, but I'm not, like I said before, this is not really the price action that I kind of want to be involved in. There was a trade over here, but you know, looking at it now, it looks very nice for yesterday's trade. There probably was a little bit of percentage you could have captured on it, but really and truly probably 1% you would have probably been taken out. So when it ran about 2.3, perhaps maybe around about here at around about percent you would have been taken out, so you would have made maybe 1% on that. Once again, like, now it's just become too messy. It's not something that I'm going to be looking at. I'll probably just leave that off watch. Aussie CAD. So Aussie CAD went in confluence with Aussie US dollar and the Aussie 200. So if I just have a look at the Aussie 200 as well and where it's trading at the moment, you know, the Aussie 200 is in this sort of price area, and we can just sell off from here as well. It's very much possible, but it does look like we're correctively making our way higher. So if the Aussie is getting a little bit more strength, we need to look at that carefully. But I think at the moment, it's definitely in a very good area for us to look for it to potentially go short. What I did see was we had this sort of corrective. It's just these sort of price action movements are not usually the best, because you can just be drawing lines and just be trying to make things kind of fit. So I wouldn't really get caught up with this, but there definitely seems to be a lot of tension in this area here. So, you know, what I'm sort of forecasting is usually when we see a lot of tension in certain areas, we do sometimes get a very good rejection. So I'm hoping that if we do sell off, we could sell off from here, or we could sell off from here. Hence the reason why, looking at Aussie CAD and Aussie US dollar, there's two price zones that I'm really looking at. And if this doesn't sell off from here, then I'll look at the nice point over there, the next point. So essentially we are in this point here. If we do commit, which I do like the fact that we kind of have broken below this now, I do need to wait for the next candle close, just giving that extra confirmation. But we didn't quite tap into that, but we did have that mini double top. When we had the mini double top and we sold here, that's where I got involved. So my entry was right here, stop loss was right there, and it's currently running about 3%. So, you know, once again, in terms of risk management, I didn't take a full 1% on this trade, only because we didn't kind of break above this. We had the mini double top and stuff, so I reduced the amount of risk I took. But even so, the context is there. You know, we had the high, we came all the way up here, we then correctively came up, squeezed, pushed, and like I said, I wouldn't start drawing lines just to kind of make it work, but we did have that nice little arc push down, and then I'm involved there. So that's basically the Aussie CAD position. I wouldn't say it's the best of my positions, but I would say that in line with Aussie US dollar, it's definitely there. And obviously I am looking for the short, and I have been looking for the short for about 2 weeks on these pairs. So, you know, I'm very much aware of what's happening. And I think, you know, when you are taking trades, you need to be well in sync with what's actually going on. Euro US dollar, went over this one, you know, just need to wait for that commitment. Might get tagged out, might not, who knows. We'll just have to see how that plays out on a break even on that. GY, I guess it's just, yeah, it's not really the sort of price action I'm kind of wanting to get involved in anymore. It just got a little bit more messier than I wanted, to be honest. I was looking for the 1, 2, 3 leading up to the high. We didn't quite get that. So at this point in time, I'm just going to wait for GY to really just reveal itself. I think it does need a bit of time for it to develop. It could develop into multiple amounts of things. Perhaps maybe it can just, you know, start creating this, and then we go. I can't really tell at this point, but a larger correction reversal pattern would be very, very much interesting to myself, and that would be a trade that I would definitely wait for. But at this point, it looks like it's going to be happening next week. We might get some sort of aggressive movement, but most probably a next week trade. New Zealand yen as well. New Zealand yen was one that I think, you know, over here we did see the buy. And where was it? It was down here. So we were looking at the buy roughly around about, yeah, just roughly around about here. And then we had that aggressive push. In terms of a trade, would I have taken a trade there? It's possible that it was there, but then in terms of risk reward, you know, there was a 3-to-1 to the high as well. So I think, you know, possible, but then again, I didn't really want to just jump in for 3-to-1 on that. I was looking for something a little bit better. I didn't quite get a flag as well that I was looking for, you know, and then we had this aggressive sort of push down and push up. I guess that was probably a trade that I would have opted in for personally. Over here, I would have opted in for this trade, but yeah, all the way around. Right here, so that would have been roughly around about, yeah, 22 pips, and then I would have been running around about 2%, probably been taken out around about here now, about 1%, yeah, would have been taken out there. So probably, yeah, I would have walked away with just 1%, but regardless, adding 1 more % to your portfolio is pretty good if you can do that, you know, 3 times in a month. It's not bad. You'd add up by the end of the year. You'd be very happy with that. And then, yeah, just waiting for development. I think USD yen, it's one of them ones where I think in line with the DXY, do we get that correction? Probably at this point now, it's probably going to be a little bit more than what we are looking at. Probably will maybe extend and then just sell off. So I'll definitely keep an eye on these price points. It can get a little bit more corrective than we expect. We have a near miss to the low, so we can just sell off, but bear in mind, sell point here, sell point here. Those are the ones that I'll be looking at, and then if we do continue, then that might be something of more interest, that we might get a bigger sell movement coming up. But with that corrective price, I will just be extra patient with that. And that kind of comes to the end of the Thursday market breakdown. So yeah, like I said, there's some really good pairs on watch this week. I think, you know, Aussie, US dollar, Aussie CAD, GA and EA. I think personally just have to be extra sharp with these pairs. Like I said, they're not fully ready. I mean, with this corrective price action here, this can still just correct and then go back up, and we can just still see bullish price action on Euro USD. It doesn't have to sell off from here. You know, this can correct and then we might see something like that, or it may not even come down for that touch. It may just go up here and then just go up further. So keep that in mind, that, you know, there's variations of things that can happen with this pair. But if we start selling and we're down here somewhere, then you could definitely be looking for a correction for a short, and that's how I would look to take another position here. I'd look to wait for a little bit more commitment, and then if you get something, these might be your areas where you look for something a little bit larger with structure, something a little bit more larger with structure there, and then, you know, next thing you know, you're pretty much all the way down here. It will take a few days. You might be into early next week, Tuesday or something. However, sometimes, which is a good tip as well, if we aggressively come up, sometimes we can aggressively come back down as well. You probably have seen it and experienced it, but it's just something to be very aware of, and, you know, just know, keep in the back of your mind. So yeah, thanks for watching. I don't really have much else to kind of report on, because these are the only ones I'm watching. But yeah, have a good week, and I'll catch you in the next video.